A little while ago, I was looking around for updates or info on the official Bravely Default Flying Fairy manga. I knew there was an adaptation for the game and just wanted to know if it was still going or if it had finished or whatnot. However, I found something else instead. It was an image of Alternus Dim and Argent Heinkel, drawn in a comic or manga-like fashion. It actually looked like the cover art to some short story. Most of the text on it was in kanji, but there was one English part that stuck out very strongly. Bravely Default Anthology, Story for Second. Since finding that image, I've been hunting down every piece of information I could about this story. So what is the Bravely Default Anthology? What happens in it? And how does it connect the events of Bravely Default to Bravely Second? Now, I know what you're probably asking yourself.
Where is...
Anthology.
Yeah, I'll do you one better. Who's...
Anthology.
I'll do you one better. Why is...
So how come I've never heard of this? Well, it was never localized. It's only available in Japanese, but personally I still want a copy regardless. As well as the newly released art of Bravely Default from Dark Horse, but I'm getting sidetracked. As soon as I saw that image, I needed to find the whole story. So I did some more searching, and eventually I found it. The story had been translated by someone named Doki Doki Master, and its entirety was posted on Imager. And the most interesting part of it all, it was completely canonical. I'll go over the events of the story later on. I gave it a read, and after being relatively entertained, I took a step back for a moment and thought to myself, this can't be it. It ends way too abruptly. It just feels so strange to be on its own. And plus there was the fact it was called an anthology. If you are not aware, an anthology is a collection of various stories. So I continued my search. I browsed through more forums and discussions, reading through every comment and threads, looking for links or info of any kind. I was eventually able to find the 4th chapter translation with poorer images from the comic from another user named Deku, which followed Ominous Crow and Artemia Venus. I also found a complete version of the 1st chapter, although it was entirely untranslated. It had the Jackal, Einherja Venus, and Barris Lair on its cover. But the puzzle hadn't been solved just yet, and I had virtually run out of old threads to look through. So I decided to try looking for help. Going to Reddit, I posted about my hunt for the anthology in the Bravely Default subreddit, and eventually there was a response. User komatsujo replied, answering my call. They informed me a bit more about each chapter of the anthology, and even offered to send me the entire epilogue as it was a rather short thing for them to scan, and I later returned to them to ask for a few more images from the 2nd and 4th chapters, which they also graciously supplied. Check out their Tumblr and YouTube channel in the description, because this is the least I can do, so thank you so much komatsujo for the help. Of course, there was still the matter of translating the epilogue and the 1st chapter. So I downloaded a very useful text-recognizing image scanner program that pulled the kanji out of an image and made it into copyable text, then roughly Google translated my way through each story, trying to understand what was happening throughout. If there are any mistakes I have made, then please blame my lack of thorough translation skills. Now then,
enough fooling around.
What is the Bravely Default Anthology? It is a 4-chapter comic with a 10-page epilogue. The stories take place between the events of Bravely Default and Bravely Second, and they are canonical. This is what happened. The 1st chapter of the anthology begins with the Jackal searching around Anchime for someone. We later see him reading to a group of kids who inform him that one child named Asha has been abducted. Jackal declares that he will steal her back, but before he can, he runs into Barris Lair and, not long after, Einherja Venus. Jackal and Barris begin to fight, and Einherja finally intervenes when one of Barris's attacks miss and hit her instead. Calming down, all of them realize that they are in a similar situation. They are no longer under the command of the Duchy, and each are looking for someone special to them. Jackal is of course looking for Asha, Einherja is searching for her sister Mephilia, and Barris is on the lookout for Holly White. Einherja suggests that the 3 of them work together as this seems too coincidental to not be connected. Just after this, all 3 are chased down by officers, of which they elude capture. When Jackal asks why the other two were being chased by the law, it's revealed that Barris did some smashing at the Chamber of Commerce after seeing a suspicious guy, and Einherja got drunk in a bar, to which she flusteredly claims that the men there offered information about her sister if she had a drink with them. Taking a moment to think, the three realize that all the victims have been women, and so the blame is thrown to Fiore de Rosa based on his schemes in Florum. However, he says that he is not involved and is now just an old wolf researching magic. With no more leads, the group is approached by a surprising visitor, Idia Lee. She tells them that there is a suspicious building nearby that may be the kidnappers' hideout. Jackal, Barris, and Einherja go to the location, and after barging in loudly, they end up in a fight with a large group of men. After hacking, slashing, godspeed striking, pressure pointing, and crescent mooning, they come across a massive foe. Jackal outspeeds the boss and finishes it off, before taking note that this monstrous being is wearing armor similar to that of the Black Blades. Before they can figure it out on their own, the group sees Mephilia and Holly in a room being worshipped by a multitude of men. As it turns out, Swordmaster Kamiizumi was beaten by the Wind Vestal, and so he had decided to come to Harina to re-establish the country. The next bit was a little wonky to translate, as one part claims that the ladies were abducted after being knocked out by a strange scent, but what is clear is their use of De Rosa's special perfume to control the local military. Among the group, they also find Asha, who is distant and sad about her father not returning to save her. Mephilia claims that they had abducted her but were going to let her go. Jackal assures her that she can wait for her father as long as she wants, but Asha responds by saying that she will never wait for him again and would rather stay with her uncle Jackal, before hugging him. Outside, they meet up with Idia once again, and Asha wants to stay with Jackal, but he tells her that if she did, she'd spend her life running from officers and the law. He then sends her home, promising that they'll meet again someday, before traveling on with Einherja and Barris. Unfortunately, I was unable to access this chapter in its entirety anywhere online, and asking komatsujo to upload it without much to repay them would be pretty unfair in my opinion. However, they did give me a brief summary of what the chapter entailed. The second chapter appeared to follow Kono Kikyo and Praline a la mode, as Kamer and a Rudis Profiteur act as Kono's managers in an attempt to make her a pop star too. It is an absolute sin this was not available, but should the day come that I can get my hands on it, you can bet that I will follow this up with a quick supplementary video just about that chapter. The third chapter followed Knight Argent Heinkel and Dark Knight Ultranis Dim, and is the most commonly known part of the anthology in the West due to its fantastic translation by Doki Doki Master. At Templar Brave Lee's request, Heinkel and Ultranis start up a private investigation group to help the public in Eternia and regain their trust. Eventually, the two are approached by their first customer, Mazur Lee, Brave's wife. She reports that a young boy named Kaito has gone missing recently, and the two accept her request to find the boy. Eventually, they locate him, though instead of being meek and shy as suggested by the photograph they're given, Kaito lashes out and acts angrily towards them. They manage to restrain him and take him to the hospital, where it's revealed that he, along with several other people in Eternia, have recently been injected with a personality-altering poison. The blame leads them to none other than De Rosa once again, who again claims that he had nothing to do with the incident. However, this time he does inform the two that he was approached by Salvemaker Kata to help with something similar, and adds that Spellfencer Sigma Kint is now working as his bodyguard. The two set off and find Kata and Kint, then attempt to arrest the Salvemaker. Kint intervenes and he squares off with Heinkel while both reflect on their days as allied knights in the past. Eventually, Kint is defeated, and Kata decides to use his poison on himself, believing it will fix his flaws and make him perfect and unbeatable. Unfortunately for him, it instead turns his proud nature against him, making him into a crying baby while begging for Heinkel and Ultranis to take him to jail. Kint, in the meantime, escapes, heading off to continue his life in protecting someone he cares about. A short while later, Kaito is back to his normal self, and the story closes as Idia Lee approaches the two knights. Chapter 4 starts with a panicked, ominous crow running into a forest to escape from what he believes to be the duchy hunting him down for punishment. While in the forest, he finds an unconscious girl floating down a river and decides to save her, despite wallowing in self-torment just moments ago about how everyone he knew betrayed him eventually. Upon waking, the girl claims she has no memory of who she was, but recalls that she had been hunting before slipping and hitting her head. This should come as no surprise that the girl is Artemia Venus, but Ominous does not recognize her. The two begin to survive in the wild, with Artemia hunting and Ominous cooking the meat with his fire, to which Artemia sees as his right to eat for helping when he refuses, claiming that he did not earn any right. One night, Artemia exclaims that even though she has eaten only half the food, she feels fuller than ever, and Ominous agrees silently. The next day, Heinkel and Alternus find the two, and Ominous drags Artemia away, claiming that the other Eternian commanders are the enemy. They are eventually stopped by Einherja, who calls for her sister to come home with her. When a confused Artemia doesn't go, Ominous pushes her towards the others, now joined by Edea and Agnès Oblige, repeating the lie that he told himself at the start of the story, before walking away. Then we see Edea do something very, very interesting. She returns the Ranger Asterisk to Artemia. This is the answer we've been looking for, how all of the Eternian commanders were able to come back and why they have their jobs again in Bravely Second. But there's still the question of why Edea is doing this, and we will get to that in a bit. Upon receiving the Asterisk, Artemia's mask covers her face once again, and her memory returns, but she can no longer remember her time with Ominous. As Einherja leads her away, she looks over her shoulder, as though she feels like she's forgetting something important. The epilogue of the anthology takes place in a rather surprising location, Gathlashio, the starting town of Bravely Second. Agnès and Edea are chatting at a cafe, talking about a task they have finally finished, and Agnès thanks Edea as she couldn't have done it without her. We flash back to a month ago, where Edea is doing paperwork at Eternian Central Command, which she finds difficulty with. One day, as she was thinking back on her adventures with her friends, Agnès visits her, carrying one of Sage Juliana's asterisks. She claims that he had asked a favor of her to return the asterisks to their original owners, now that the crystals were back to normal. Edea, who has gotten over her regrets of fighting her superiors and wants to help, joins her. As the two walk down a street, two familiar faces pass by, Yu Geniolja and Jan on guard. Yu realizes that Agnès is the Wind Vestal and watches her with a surprised look. Moments later, they bump into Nikolai Nikolanikov, who appears to have been away from them for some time. The three joke and catch up with one another, while Agnès watches the three future Cavaliers and leaves with Edea. And so, the book closes on the Bravely Default Anthology. With this, we've gotten our answer as to how and why the Eternian commanders have returned in Second, as well as some fun stories involving them. I hope that I can find that second chapter someday and give you all a summary of its events, or a localization of it would be even better. But only time will tell. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.